Shares an historic event to commemorate Black History Month, 3 men, 3 days. A spark. One simple event can cause a conflagration. Less than 100 years after the Civil War, the very social timber of our nation smoldered. Nowhere was this struggle more combustible than in the South. A way of life was challenged to yield to a new vision. Hope and freedom opposed an established order. 1964's Freedom Summer provided such a spark. Hundreds of idealistic Americans descended into the powder keg of Mississippi to register blacks who had long been denied the right to vote. John Doerr, Deputy Chief of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, told the Freedom Riders in a week-long training session at Western College for Women in Oxford, Ohio, there is no federal police force. The responsibility for protection is that of the local police. More than 20 black churches would be firebombed that summer, none more important than Mount Zion Methodist Church in Longdale, Mississippi. Before the summer ended, Mississippi would burn. 3 men, 3 days.
Michael Schwerner, Andrew Goodman, James Chaney. Honored guests, fellow Toastmasters, Toastmasters to be, for what are you willing to live? For what are you willing to die? I'm going to tell a story about human nature, hatred, and hope. The 3 men I just named left Oxford, Ohio, driving back in a CORE station wagon, CORE, Congress on Racial Equality. They were driving back from Ohio to Mississippi to investigate the firebombing in Longdale. Michael Schwerner, young, Jewish, from New York. He had always been a champion of the underdog. As a child, he was the bodyguard, unofficial, of former Clinton Labor Secretary Robert Reich. When his parents asked him, why in the world are you going to Mississippi? He said, I want to be part of an integrated society. So he went. Andrew Goodman, young, also Jewish, also from New York. His family had been an activist family in New York as well. He had opportunities to act, but he said, I want to get out of my bubble. Wealthy, there's something better for my life. So he headed to Mississippi. James Chaney, local Mississippian, and he was the only African American of the group. He was described as innocuous as an alley cat. He was invisible to the power structure in Mississippi, or so he thought. These 3 men drove from Ohio back to the relative safety of Meridian, Mississippi, where there was a CORE office. They arrived overnight, and in the night, they had conversations. This is June 20th. They had conversations about what tomorrow would bring, the hope there, what they would confront, and the opportunities to empower those who had been disenfranchised. They got a good night's sleep on June 20th, and then they started out in the morning on June 21st. They informed one of the local CORE officials, if we are not back by 4:30, call the authorities. Something will have happened to us. Something happened to us. Call up line, call our allies, find us. They drove from Meridian, Mississippi, into bloody Neshoba County. They drove to Longdale. And this is the story that greeted them there. On June 16th, at night, 10 black men and women were in their church. This church, Mount Zion Methodist was going to be a freedom school where education would take place, as well as voter registration. But word had gotten out to the Klan, and they were upset. The White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Mississippi's most virulent strain of Klansmen, was really, really angered. And when the 10 black people left the church at night, about 10 o'clock, they found their church surrounded by Klansmen in full hoods and regalia with guns. They were forced to their knees and beaten and watched as their church went up in flames. The parishioners told Michael Schwerner that he was the target. The Klansmen hated, despised him. They called him Goatee and Jew Boy. And they found out that night that the Klan had put a hit out on his head. A bounty was set out on Michael Schwerner's head. While he was frightened, he still had a mission. And the mission was to empower those who were disenfranchised. As they left from Longdale, Mississippi, they had a choice. If they went down Route 491, it's a straight shot to Meridian and the relative safety therein. But along the way, there were empty buildings and a possibility for an ambush to happen. Instead, if they take Route 19 and turn left, they'd go into the heart of Neshoba County, through Philadelphia, its county seat. So they made a choice. Instead of going down Route 491, they went up 16 and turned on to 19. Upon entering Philadelphia, Mississippi, the county seat, two things happened. First, they got a flat tire, and second, they were pulled over by Assistant Deputy Sheriff Cecil Ray Price. Cecil Ray recognized James Chaney as the driver, and he despised him, hated him, because he didn't know his place. They were arrested. James Chaney was accused of going 65 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman were arrested under suspicion for having firebombed the church, even though they had been in Ohio. The 4:30 deadline came and passed. Corps officials had tried to contact them by calling the police office. No answer. No one knew their whereabouts. And when Schwerner, Goodman, and Chaney all begged for a phone call, they were denied. Some of you may think, well, what about Miranda rights? This is 1964. Miranda didn't develop until 1966. They were on their own. Chaney paid the $25 fine, $25 bail, and they were ready to go. They left. Cecil Ray made a phone call and rounded up 2 carloads of Klansmen, and they met up at the police station. Schwerner, Chaney, and Goodman were driving their battered blue car. Again, the relative safety of Meridian, Mississippi, and the Corps office was down 491. A high-speed chase ensued. Faster, faster, as fast as the little blue van could go. But the cop car, the police car, had far too much horsepower. The little blue car signaled its intentions, slowed down, and came to a complete stop. That was the last time the 3 men were seen alive. June 21st. June 22nd, again, efforts to have reached them had gone in vain. And Corps officials called upstream, finally gaining audience with John Doerr of the Justice Department. John Doerr walked over to the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, and said, "You've got to do something. This is wrong." This is the 22nd. Several things came out of it. Robert Kennedy spoke to Lyndon Johnson and said, "Do something, please." But Kennedy implored him. President Johnson said, "Fine. As Commander-in-Chief, I will detail up 150 naval officers to search for these young men." And then he exerted pressure, extreme pressure, on J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover dragged his feet. He hated the civil rights movement. Absolutely hated it. But under pressure from the president, he opened the first office in Mississippi. 44 days later, their bodies were found. Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney's bodies were found in an earthen dam. It will be 50 years this June since their murder. I want you to remember these men. I want you to remember them for how they fought against a human nature to exclude. I want you to remember them for the hatred that claimed their lives. I want you to remember them for the hope that they gave to others. Don't let their names become empty footnotes in a dusty history textbook. Remember them the way their families remembered them before they went missing. Michael Schwerner, Andrew Goodman, James Cheney. For what are you willing to die, Mr. Toastmaster?